capture that. So what I wanted to say is that Charles Schuler, he's like a 6'8" guy in our club. You might have seen him. He's really, really tall. And right now, I think he owns a 20-inch Dob. I think it's a 20 or maybe 22-inch Dob. But before that, he had a 14-inch Dob, and he had a Pontiac GTO or something like that, or maybe it was an Oldsmobile, an old Oldsmobile, and he would stick this 14-inch solid tube Dob. You know, it's from front back seat to, I'm not sure, went in the trunk or went just the front seat to the back seat. That was just a monster that he put in there.
I know.
But now he's got even bigger. I don't know how he handles this big one. I don't know if it's a multi-piece with struts or what. Probably must be for a 20 or 22.
Yeah.
Took him a long time to get that.
Yeah.
I wish he would join us here. I wish a few more people would join us. Jerry said he'd be coming in this evening. But, well, let's see. We'll just wait on a little bit longer for folks. Probably people forget. Oh, Tuesday night. Got to put it on the calendar and have an alarm set. At least that's what I have to do.
Yeah, actually, I have an alarm on my tablet. Otherwise, I would have forgotten about it. So.
Yeah. Got to encourage other folks to do that. So let's see. I guess I'll show you what I did. Let me see if I can share my screen. I put it on YouTube. The kind of a. I don't think I have the sound. That's good. Won't hear me speaking. So okay, maybe if I make it bigger. What if I do that? Can I do that? How can I make this bigger? Oh, I can do that. And then so you can see the moon and Venus up there. Mars is is dark at this point. Let's see what. Okay, so this is about 8:30 at night, I think, when I started. And it's kind of early, still kind of light out. And let's see. I'll show you my close-up when I zoomed in on them.
Oh, cool.
Oh, here's the thin crescent moon. You probably can't hear that. Move a little bit left here.
I hear something.
I'm trying to see. There's Venus. You can see Mars. Next to Venus.
Well, that's Venus. Where's Mars?
Yeah.
Oh, there. Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think I have a hot pixel somewhere too on my camera.
Uh-huh.
It comes and goes at this time of night. It was a little early when I did this video.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to know that the moon is like a half a degree in diameter, and the distance between Mars and Venus is kind of like a little bit more than that, probably like 1 degree.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. That was the end of that. Let me shrink that back down.
Okay. Nice.
Oops. That's weird. I don't know how this happened. Hello, Dick. Good to see you.
Hi.
Stop the share here. Jerry's forgotten. No, Jerry's probably forgotten. He's probably riding around in his Tesla Model Y. He's got a dual motor Model Y that he's getting to know. He said he'd be here, but probably forgot.
That could make you forget.
Yeah, that's a lot of car to have. I can't turn it. I want to move that over. So, Dick, did you go out this week to do any astrophotography?
I did. Most of what I did this last lunar cycle was centered around doing a 3-panel mosaic of the Pike Nebula. And I tried to get the lagoon after that, but it was so crappy and windy. And I just got, I tried it a couple, 2-3 nights, and I just kind of gave up on it because it kept getting crappier and crappier. So I just kind of, and it's low in the horizon. It's hard for me to get with it. With a 10-inch, it's pretty tough. I do have a version of it, but I did the long axis of the lagoon on the short axis of the sensor. So I wanted to try to get it on the long axis. And I thought about HenkA and what he had done there with the shorter exposure, revealing the structure in the inside seemed like a really neat thing. I liked it a lot, and so I was going to try and do some of that, but I just didn't get a good
Oh, okay.
start
Yeah.
on it.
You
Yeah.
know, thank you for the compliment. That was at the Kaibab Lodge, and it was unguided because I was freezing my ass off, and you know, I just wanted to be done with it. So
Okay.
after 10 minutes, I'll take some shots, and finally everything was working. So it was far from ideal. And last night, actually, or actually, no, 2 nights ago, I did the lagoon again, and this time guided. So I can show that, but I have to log onto my computer, and this thing is 10 years old, so it always takes some time to wake up and so on. So, but I'll let you know when
I got one of those.
Yeah.
You got to convert all those computers to solid state drives. It really makes sense. It's like having a tablet that you just tap on it and it comes on.
I got to get a new computer real soon. This thing is so old, and my son built it, but it's just it's still running XP.
So if you wait a few months, you'll have Windows 11 on the computer.
Okay, I just clicked on Zoom, so within minutes it should show on your end. Anyway, so yeah, I've been mostly yeah, I've taken the scope out a couple of times, and I'm trying to get down to like, I would like to get down to like half an arc-second RMS total before I start to do some serious astrophotography.
Wow, that seems pretty tight.
It is tight, but the thing is, yeah, if you do the math, one arc-second RMS corresponds with 3.6 pixels on my sensor. And so I don't really get the benefit of doing a monochromatic. You know, I have a mono camera that I haven't used yet, but the ratio has to be good. I mean, the mono gives you what, like 1 pixel extra. I mean, color makes everything 1 pixel larger, right? So you go from 3.6 to 4.6. That's not a huge difference. So you might as well do color instead of mono. There's no point. I mean, if it's about resolution, right? I'm not talking narrow band or something like that. So join with video, join without video. Okay. So 1 arc-second gives you 3.6 pixels. If you get like below one pixel, that would be good. So that's the 0.25. And on the Losmandy user board, there are some people who claim that they can guide to 0.25 arc-second RMS. And I don't have the illusion that I can get there, but I can get down, you know, depending on the target, to 1 arc-second RMS now. And I would like to get to 0.5. That would make me happy. And I just have to figure out what it is that keeps me from getting there. So let me click through this here. Continue, yeah. Okay, so share screen. Let me just, okay. Yeah. Pictures. So anyway, this is the lagoon. It's about 40 exposures of 1 minute each. So it is.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
No,
that's neat.
let me just bring it up on a decent open with Windows. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is halfway decent. It's at least the guiding was okay. But so before this, I had about one arc-second RMS on an area near Deneb. I just pointed the scope at Deneb, and that's higher up. And but this is the lagoon. It's so low down that I probably have 2 arc-seconds RMS here.
Yeah, that's what I find is the low ones like this are really tough.
Yeah. So you can tell. I mean, the you know, the stars are not crisp, not super crisp, but it's okay. It's you know.
Now, this is a stack, right?
What?
Is this a stack or is this just one frame? Or yeah.
No, this is 40 frames of 60 seconds stacked.
Okay.
Just in DSS. Just I didn't do anything fancy or anything like that. And I use some bias frames and some flats. That's usually what I do.
Yeah.
And it works out.
It's Hank. That's really cool looking. I mean, it looks like some sort of alien blob creature coming towards us here. That's really amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. This image is much better than the one that I got at the Kaibab Lodge. By the way, I wish I had framed it better, like Dick said. You know, I should have tilted it.
Yeah,
like
the
this.
long axis. That's what I did. I had it on the short axis of the sensor.
Yeah,
That's unfortunate, but
yeah. But I'm beginning to like my system now. Finally, all the plate solving and all the polar alignment and focusing, all that stuff is work. It just takes some practice and so on. Now I'm familiar with it. If the plate solve fails one time, then you go to a different resolution and then it will work and so on. So it's and I have to say the off-axis guider, it works very well the last two times. So I tried it last week as well, and the stars were really fuzzy then. So I think it really depends a lot on the seeing, and the off-axis guider shows you exactly how bad it is because it's got such a small field of view. So anyway, but this time it worked pretty well. And yeah, the off-axis guider, it kind of works, but it's difficult. I mean, you have to make sure that the focal length is that is in focus at the same time as when the main image is in focus, right? So earlier on, that took me a while, and it's good now. But I can tell that if the focus is not good, then I see a V-shaped stars in my off-axis guider. Strange enough, that I don't know why it's V-shaped. I wonder if it has to do with the prism that takes that little beam of light. But yeah. Anyway, it kind of works. I just wonder if I would move that over to some other system, that I probably have to change the focus and so on. That would be a pain in the ass. So I have a system that works as it is, but I would also like to just use it RedCat 51 sometime. And
yeah, that's what I did for the mosaic, and it came out really good. I really liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I'll show you guys that one.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Anyway, I'm happy with this.
That's
one.
pretty. It's nice. I love it.
I also took one from the Trifid, but I didn't get enough lights in, but I'll show you anyway. So, I mean, most of what I do is really just playing with, trying to get the RMS as small as possible, and then I don't do anything until I have that. I don't do anything else. And if there's some time left, and I just pick a target. These are just old targets that I've done before. Yeah, this one is it's so. In the end, clouds started showing up, so I ran out of light, and I could use some more lights really. So this was about 30 minutes or so, effectively. And there is in the lower right, you can see that there's some vignetting going on. When I was processing it, I could actually see a clear circle, and I suspect that that's from the coma corrector, because the paracord coma corrector is kind of long. And after I darkened the image so that the noise disappeared from the background, that rim went away. But I don't really quite like it. I mean, it looks like the circle is just, the paracord is a long tube, and it narrows the field of view. So it takes some.
You could maybe, you could maybe try doing some flats either way, with the coma or without, and just see if it changes the vignetting pattern. That might be one check we could do.
Yeah, it was also a bit asymmetrical, I have to say, because the circle was less visible to the left. It seemed to like it had shifted to the left. So I don't know if the collimation of my scope has anything to do with it. That
sounds more like a collimation issue.
Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. I didn't see this. I looked back.
That's pretty.
That's really nice. Trifid's one of my favorites.
It is too. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I had
but
some
the
more.
Separation is just unbelievable. That's really nice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's
good deal.
Anyway, yeah, this was more like target practice, and I'll keep doing that for a while until I get to my 0.5 arc-second RMS, and then I'll do some serious imaging, or I'll start trying to get serious. But the 12 inch is a big beast, and so
it's not, that's a big scope.
Oh, and you guys are talking about RMS, and what do you mean by the RMS?
Root mean squared.
Root mean squared. So it's kind of that's another term we do in the optics, but I don't.
But you see what you're going to get. Let's say on a trender is you're going to get a peak to peak signal. Let's say it's going to go 1 second north versus 1 second south, you know, if that's the axis that you're talking about right there.
Okay.
So you have to, that's why you're looking at RMS values, is because you've got peak to peak issues going on. So you're looking at that RMS, that true RMS value instead of the peak value.
That's interesting because we do that in the when mirror making too, when we're testing mirrors. So there's a root mean square, and then there's also a Skrill ratio, and I don't know what that is either. But,
Yeah.
So here it applies to the error due to tracking. So it's like a random variable, and it has an X direction and a Y direction, you know, in terms of the frame that you're looking at. So the square root of X squared plus Y squared, that's just the norm. That's basically the standard deviation, the overall standard deviation. That's the total RMS. But
you want this number to be low or high?
Very low, as low as possible.
Okay. Okay.
So,
That's your error right there, basically.
Okay. So you want the RMS to be super low. Okay. All right. Good.
Yeah. So
I think it's the same in testing as well, in optics. I think it's the same.
It is. It is. I'm sure it is.
Yeah. So
we need Jerry for that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm down to the mechanical part of the mount now. So I'm still using those spring-loaded worms, but yeah, it's tricky. I'm on the Losmandy board as well, and people over there, they also use their own spring-loaded worms and so on. Some say it works, others say it does not work. So you know, if you have a spring-loaded worm, you use a certain extra force to press the worm down, or to press the worm down onto the ring gear. And because of the extra friction, it wants to go up and down a little bit more than usual. So, you know, it's better for slewing because it won't bind up, but for tracking, it may not always be the best. So I will also try it without the spring-loaded worm, just tighten all the bolts and see if it works better that way.
Is
the
spring loading for backlash?
Yes. That's part of it. It's also to keep the mount from binding up. So the ring gear, which is the big cogwheel that the worm presses against, is not perfectly round. So when I tried to just tighten the worm and have a nice tight mount, because when it came, it had backlash, and I just hated that. I mean, I spent like $2,500 on a mount, and it has worse backlash than my AVX that I got for $100. It's kind of disappointing. Now, I'm not sure if that's the worst thing in the world, because I think a lot of people, they just live with it. And
is it backlash on RA or DEC or both?
Both.
Wow,
so,
that's quite good.
It has to be there, because if it's not there, then the gear will bind up. So I started implementing my on-step do-it-yourself motors, and then the stuff binds up, and you don't know, well, is it the motor that doesn't have enough power, or is it something else? So it takes a while to figure that out, but I'm convinced that it's just the ring gear now. So these spring-loaded worms work really well for slewing, never a problem. It's just ideal. But for tracking, I'm not so sure yet. So because it does introduce, you have 2 loose screws now instead of 2 tight screws, and things that are loose are never good for tracking. So
now, Henk, I've heard that people for the backlash, they solved it by taking the scope out of balance by having it.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
I was just going to mention that, Tim.
Yeah, so, that's what I do.
Yeah.
DEC is fine with me. DEC I can balance, but RA I have to have on balance because it's got too much slop.
What kind of how do you do that? Do you attach a magnet or something like that with weight or something?
Oh no! All I do is I just sit there and figure out when I balance the scope out.
Yeah.
I usually go for scope side heavy. So I just go a little bit heavier on the scope. I found that when you put a bigger instrument on there, it's more of a problem. Like let's say the 10-inch, then you have, and that was what I was having problems with the Lagoon, because it's like you say, it's low and also near the meridian. So those 2 combinations with a 10-inch scope, it just blows it out. But what I do is when I start rocking on RA, you can always tell because it just goes, talk about peak to peak, it just goes one way versus the other. So you can tell it's walking back and forth. So what I do is I just start sliding that weight up the shaft until it stops doing that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Just have a trender going, and you can see it on the trender, and you can see the thing is just going like this, oscillating back and forth. And what
Okay.
I've found in PhD is the guy's got these constants in there. They're called aggression constants.
Mhm.
And they're totally, I mean, he's got 75% aggression on deck and 50% on RA. Well, you're not even supposed to be moving on deck, ideally. So I toned those things way down, and that helped an awful lot. I mean, the thing was oscillating on both axes. So when you see something oscillating, you're over controlling it. You gotta slow down. You've got to reduce the amount of controlling that you're doing.
Right. And
So,
yeah, I don't use PhD. I use Ekos. But
okay, yeah.
there's a whole bunch of dials and stuff that you can change. I've been playing with the gain mostly, but also with the integral gain. I don't believe that PhD2 has an integral gain.
No, it's not PID. It's not a PID type control. It's more like some kind of a bastardized proportional control.
Yes.
So it doesn't even do the integral and derivative portion.
Right. Yeah. Well, Ekos does, but anyways,
Yeah,
it
that's a
doesn't. It
better
doesn't
way
have
to
the
go.
gain. It doesn't have the derivative, but that's good enough. So, but playing around with it, it takes some. I mean, there are a lot of parameters. But those two I've played with, and they have some effect. So, I'm becoming more comfortable with it. But that's a good idea what you mentioned there. Yeah, there was one guy on the Losmandy board. He said, I think he wrapped a weight around the counterweight axis. So with a sling or something like that. So that if you turn the scope, that the torque is still the same because it's a sling. And he said, 2 pound weight will do it. Anyway, I'll play with it. And yeah, so I think I can eventually come down to 0.5 arc seconds RMS. In DEC, I was able to get that for quite a while actually. So yeah. Anyway,
there's going to be a balance between getting rid of all that backlash and all the and wearing your worm gears out. Because that's going to wear them out. And a lot more weight on your scope and
well, okay, so that might not be the worst part actually, because it apparently, I mean, if you get a new system, there was one guy from with the Losmandy who looked at it with a magnifying glass, and he saw all kinds of roughness on the worm. So if you have an old worm, then all that roughness is gone, and it's actually a lot smoother. So
oh, I see.
Old systems might actually be better than new systems, and that
now
could
somebody
be
was also saying that there was I don't think it was Celestron. I think it was Mead, and they had a gear in there that was plastic. It wasn't even metal. The big gear, the big cog that was giving it the probably the RA.
And that sounds weird. I mean, the big cogwheel is usually made of metal.
They said it was made of plastic, and they were complaining like crazy about it. This was a couple of years back, and they were saying, "Oh my God!" They opened it up, and the thing was plastic. You remember that, Tom, at all? Do you remember who that was?
No, I don't remember what kind of scope was that. Whose mount was that?
That's the point. I think it was either a Mead or Celestron. I don't think it was one of the more expensive. It wasn't like a Losmandy. I don't think. But somebody was telling me that they said, "Oh my God, this thing was." Well, maybe it wasn't plastic, but maybe it was aluminum. But whatever it was too soft, and they really complained about it. And the guy says, "Oh yeah, we're making a new gear now. It's better." But I remember that people were just going, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!" Yeah, I can't remember it.
It's probably a cheap mount.
Yeah.
Yeah, might have been.
Anyway, I hope I can get this Losmandy to do it, and if not, then I'll probably buy some astrophysics mount if I can get my hands on one.
Well, the mounts are much easier to get through Roland Christensen than the scopes. The scopes were just impossible. I mean, Chuck had a nightmare there. He was on a list for the 4-inch Traveler, and I think it was called Traveler. And anyway, he just discontinued. He didn't discontinue it. He put it on the back burner. And Chuck, he called him and said, "Well, look, I was on the list for the 4-inch. Just put me on the 5-inch." And they said, "Oh, no. We got to put you back. You got to get on the 5-inch list brand new." And it was, that was a nightmare. But then what he did is he made he got a brand new warehouse. This was a few years back. This was about 5 or 6 years ago at least. And then he just decided he was going to have a completely separate division that did mounts, and you could order the mount and get it in no time at all. So I think you won't have a problem with that at all. Chuck will know a lot about that.
Tim, what company are you talking about?
This is astrophysics.
Oh, astrophysics.
Yeah, Roland Christensen. He just they separated out the scopes from the mounts, and he put together a whole new team working on nothing but mounts. And so as a result of that, you didn't have to get on a waiting list that was years. It was literally months, and you'd have it in no time. So Hank, that's really a really good option, and I still think he makes great stuff.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
I don't want to give up on my mount though, because when I started working on something, I want to get it working. Damn it, So
Well,
I like the Losmandy. It's pretty solid and it's pretty simple. So one way or another, this thing can be made to work, and I will probably get it to work. It's just sometimes I get frustrated and I think, why I've spent all this time. I met somebody at the Kaibab Lodge over there when I was there. He said, "Oh well, I got a secondhand astrophysics mount, and it's 0.3 arc seconds RMS or something like that, and no problem. You don't even have to guide." It's like, oh wow, yeah, that's.
But
ridiculous.
Scott Losmandy is usually, if you can catch him, on the phone. That's the hard part. That's the tricky part. But if you can catch him,
I got him on the phone one time. Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
asked him about this binding up of the gear, and he says, yeah, the ring gears are not always perfectly round, so that's the deal. And I mean, the mount has a lot of good sides. One very good thing is, by the way, the tripod is just incredibly good. It's as good as a pier. So that's very good, and the mount itself is not bad either. It's very simple, and it's perfect for do-it-yourselfers, and that's what I like. So, I'll get it working. But yeah.
Tom Whittemore was really favoring. He has the Losmandy as well.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting a little grinder, the little coffee grinder, the Ioptron.
Yeah.
And he said they're a little loud, but they work great.
Yeah. That would be my other choice. I mean, when I bought the Losmandy, if I looked at all the value, I would have got an Ioptron, but I just didn't want to buy Chinese. I wanted to buy in the United States.
Yeah.
So, and why not Losmandy? I mean, he's right nearby, so I can just drive down there and pick it up.
Absolutely. And the guy's a machinist, a phenomenal machinist. The thing that's great is that he's got all these dovetail plates and everything, and they're got a gigantic selection.
He's a self-taught machinist, right? And his main business is to do the lighting for the movie industry.
Yeah.
So, but he's also an observer, so that's why he does telescope mounts.
Oh, I see. I never knew that. I always wondered that.
Yeah.
Hank, do you use Unix for your computer, right?
Linux, yeah.
Which version are using on there for your OS?
Well, okay, so I install the version that has all the astrophotography stuff. That's called Astroberry.
Oh.
You can also start with a version from scratch and install everything yourself, but it's just a whole lot of work. But everybody pretty much that uses a Raspberry Pi for astrophotography uses the Astroberry. It's a pretty good distribution.
Okay.
If you ask me for the exact version, I mean, I'm not sure if it's Jesse or Wheezy or something. I don't know if you know those names. But the Raspberry Pi releases, they have all these funky names.
Because I've been thinking about going in that direction because I'm getting so tired of Windows, and it's just getting worse and worse with them and their invasiveness. And so I've been looking at these systems, and I see Linux Mint is the one I'm seeing out there, and I was thinking about buying a system that's got it already loaded on there.
Yeah, so if you want to use a Linux system, I would recommend. I mean, if you want to have it by the scope, a Raspberry Pi is more than powerful enough, and it's a very small box. So,
Astroberry server.
So you can just hang it on your scope, and that's what I've done. So hooking it up is real simple. I showed you that thing that I built at Medusa, right? It's an ugly thing. It's an ugly thing, but it makes setting up so much easier. I just hook it up with a rubber band, and I plug in the wires, and I'm done, basically. So And it's a Debian based system. So that the Raspberry Pi, the native Linux OS is based off Debian. And so the Astroberry is a customization of that.
And
And
this
then-
would be on your laptop. You've got this loaded on, or is this
No.
something that
So
Oh.
that's the catch. So it's a Linux system and it will not run anything Windowsy. So if you're hooked
Yeah.
on your Windows, your stuff.
No, I'm not so much that. Actually, to tell you the truth, PixInsight uses a Unix core. So
Okay.
to me, I'd be in a native environment there, and it would be fine. So this is, but what I'm thinking is like a laptop system that I would be a fairly powerful one, with a 2 terabyte drive and so forth.
Yeah. You want to do this for processing your images? Yeah, that's a different
Yes.
story. Yeah, no,
That's a whole different deal. Okay. I got you.
But yeah, I mean, I've used several kinds of Linuxes. Usually I go with Fedora because that is the basis for Red Hat's official Red Hell or RHEL distribution that goes to enterprises, Red Hat Enterprise Linux.
Okay.
And so Fedora is just the test version for that, and it's pretty stable. There's also CentOS, and CentOS is even more stable. That's actually, so Fedora is a development version, and I like it because it's kind of classy. It's not and it's very stable. It's got a GNOME desktop that I like to use, and there's also Ubuntu, but there's always something that I don't really like it. I do have to say that I do like Debian. Debian is very simple, and you can install whatever you want. It's also fairly widespread, but for something like a Raspberry Pi, it's kind of lightweight, and maybe it's too simple. You'd have to take a look at it, and yeah, when you install it, you probably get a choice of all kinds of operating systems actually that. And you may have to try that. I spent one time a whole afternoon trying all kinds of different things. So they give you different desktops. It's all the same kind of Linux, but the desktop environment might be different. It will be frustrating if you're not a Linux person or a Unix person, then you'll get frustrated because you'll find out the hard way that you have to know all kinds of things and serve for every command that it'll drive you nuts probably, but you can try it.
Yeah. I just want to try to go there because I just see the way Windows is going. It's free now. See, so yeah, you're getting something for free. You're getting a free exploitation device.
Yeah. I know it's Windows drives me nuts as well. I mean, there's so much stuff on there that my computer is slowed down. I mean, if they bring out faster computers, they bring up software that slows them down again, so that it's all balanced out. And it's not good for my 10-year-old system.
Yeah,
it gets slower and slower.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I'll show you some of my stuff here.
Yeah,
we'll start out with some of this right here. This was the setup that I had for the Red Cat. I got the Red Cat on there right now. Basically, you can't see it real well. Let me see if I can get this baby up a little bit here. But I've just got like a couple of standoffs here, and then there's like a little mount on here that I actually mount the Red Cat to. That way I can put the guide scope here. There's a Vixen bar right here down below, and so this guy mounts right up on top of this guy right here. That's just to give you enough spacing between it and the guide scope right there. So that's the setup right there. And now I wanted to show you this. This is the alignment template. So the way that this thing is made, this mosaic, is that you go into this, it's kind of like a mosaic transform type of thing. So you have a reference image and you have your target image. And basically what you're doing is when you take those two images and you pass it through this transform, it gives you an image of both of those guys put together. So it's doing some kind of star matching and so forth where the areas are overlapping, and it's forming this whole thing. And when you get those two together, then you just work yourself through. You use that as your reference image, and you go to your next plate or panel, whatever you want to call it, in the mosaic. So when you do that, you end up getting this thing, and it's called an alignment template. It looks kind of like this. This is basically, you can see, actually, this is with the red cat. Okay, so you can actually see that you're also getting some celestial curvature. See, just by the, you're changing your frame of reference. Now, when I did this, I referenced everything off this middle panel, which is, this is Theta Ophiuchi right here is the middle guy right here. This is the Pipe Nebula, by the way. So it's kind of super.
How many panels is that? Looks like maybe
3.
Oh,
3
just
panels.
3. Okay.
Yeah, just 3 panels. That was the whole concept behind this thing, was I didn't want to go in deck up and down because I was concerned about gradients. So I decided, okay, I'm going to keep deck constant and go in RA. The other thing that was neat about this was the long axis isn't moved. Just the short axis of the sensor is moved. So when you end up doing the whole thing, it ends up being just about right for, let's say, a 20 by 30 poster size or something like that. It's just about right for that sort of thing. But this was just to kind of show you what it does, how it builds the image. It builds it first by going to this right here, and then the next thing that you do is you make panels from that guy right there, and these are what they call your reference panels. And they'll be, I should have probably loaded one of them up, but it'll be like the frame that you took with black all around it for the other frame locations. And then you take those guys, you make files out of those. You take, in this case, 3 of those files, and you load them into this merge mosaic. And this merge mosaic has, let me see if I can bring it up here. Let's see here. Gradient merge mosaic. Yeah, there it is. So you add your files in here, and let me see if I can find some files in here. This is not the reference. Let's see here. Get it over you, Kai. Anyway, yeah, here you go. Here they are. 1, and then I'll do another one here, 2 and 3. Okay, so those guys right there are the 3 frames that go in there. Now, what's really interesting about this is, I don't know if you guys can see it very well or not, but the order in which these panels, when you're doing this, there's a type of combination. This one, it defaults to average. What you want to use is overlay. Whoops, didn't come up. There. Overlay is what you want to use for when you're doing a merge mosaic. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the order of these guys is really important. And that's why you have all of these these controls, move up, move down, and all that stuff. So what you want to do is think about how this thing is going to be done. First, you're going to be doing the first image in this list, and then you're going to be overlaying the second image on top of that. And then the third image gets loaded on top of that. So the whole point here is take your least, let's say, maybe contrast the image, maybe put that first, then your second, maybe your second worst image, put that, and then the third would be your best, or maybe your reference image. In this case, it's a 3, you're doing 3, so you can use the center as your reference, and everything gets referenced from there. So then there's one thing that you do prior to this that I had to get a script to do this,
Dick, what area of the sky are you doing here again?
Oh, I'll show you here. Let me see here. Let me stop sharing and go over here and pull it up here if I can. Yeah, here you go. Okay, now come back over here. I can, and screen share that right there. Okay, this is the one that I did a while back, you know, that I was saying is one of the best ones I ever did as far as constellation mapping. So what you're looking at, the one that I shot for Antares, the Ophiuchi region, is right here. That's the left leg of Ophiuchus. The right leg, which I'm shooting here and showing you, is the Pipe Nebula. That's Theta Ophiuchi right now. You can see that right here in this area here, you're starting to get into the Milky Way. And as a matter of fact, if you go down to this very corner here, very close, maybe even on this frame, I don't know, or in this image, it's the center of it's the galactic center of our galaxy. So you're very, very close to that particular area right there. So that's basically that. Now let me see here. Let me go back to where we were over here. And you have, this is the actual results right here of the 3 panels. So basically, you have, that's Theta Ophiuchi right here in the middle right here. The Pipe Nebula, why is it called the pipe? The reason why it's called the pipe is this is the stem of the pipe and this is the bowl, okay? So that basically this whole thing right here is one large nebula complex. These are actually referred to as other dark nebulas that are on top of this right here. This nebula itself, the Pipe Nebula, is a mere 450 light years away. The stars that are behind that, oh, they're tens of thousands of light years. See, so if you go into this thing, I tell you, it's wild, man. You go into here and well, actually, this is probably not the one you want to look at here. Let me see if I can get a better view of it here. And we'll take a look at this other one over here. Let's see here. Yeah, this is probably one. When you zoom in to these regions here, this is the main bowl, let's say, of the nebula. You'll see these stars, okay? You'll see that there are areas where there's actually darker. So nothing gets through. And then you'll see that there's other areas here where it's lighter. Those stars, that's starlight from underneath that's being diffuse lit through. And then every once in a while, you'll see a star that actually pokes its way through. See, and you can see that some of these collections here, the stars are just barely almost being able to get through the darkness of the nebula there itself. So this is the snake. There's the snake right there. It's called the Snake Nebula. That's a dark nebula as well. And this is all part of this complex right here. What I think is really interesting is just how freaking convoluted this thing is. I mean, it's all over the place. But this particular 3-panel mosaic came out perfect. It's artifact free. As to the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen any artifacting on this at all. And where you get your artifacting is between the panels where the lines are. You get what is known as pinching. And you know, when you say you can look at I'll show you here.
Dick, were you showing that at full resolution there?
That's full. Yeah, that's, well, it's a TIFF. So what? Did it look like it was full?
It had a lot of stars in there.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stars. There's definitely a lot of stars.
I'm just curious if that was the highest resolution that you viewed at.
Yeah, that right there is, oh, where I was at. I mean, I can zoom in more if you want me to. Let me see.
Well, that's what I was wondering. What's the actual, if you do actual size, how is it?
Oh, the actual size of the image. You want to know that, like the properties?
Oh well, just zoom in at actual
9,080 by 55920. But we can zoom in if you want.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
That's about as far. Then now, one thing I would say is like over here. Let's see if we can get there. Yeah, right here. That right there, that's the little ghost nebula. Now, how do I know? Well, for one thing, you can tell that there's a hole in the middle. So that means that it's like a planetary. And then there's like a little shroud of cloud, but you can't hardly see it. If you want to go over here, that's a glob right there. That's a globular cluster. So there's a number of objects you can find in this thing. Let me see. There's one down here. There's another glob right there. That's another glob right there. So that's basically what you got. As far as what are you looking at, I'd say you're probably looking at, degree-wise, you're probably looking at about 15 degrees this way on the long axis and about 9 degrees on the short axis. So 15 degrees on the long axis of RA, what is that going to translate to? About an hour? I know I can't do the math right now.
Yeah, 15 degrees is an hour.
An hour. So 15 degrees is about an hour of RA. So that's kind of the way I did that one right there. Let me see if there's.
Is this with the red cap?
That's the red cap. 3
Damn.
frames. Yeah, three frames. You know, it
Because
works
you blew
out.
that up and you were still getting real good.
Oh, I know. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I was like going through this thing and I was blown away. I mean, I was like going around in the thing, I said, whoa.
You're blowing
So,
it up and it's still sharp as hell.
I know. I can't believe it. So, and you know, I mean, it's like the other one. You saw the other one too, didn't you, Henk? Did you see the one that I did for the Ro'Ophiuchi area?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that's the
I don't
previous one with Antares and
Oh,
we
yeah,
did.
yeah.
I don't know if Henk saw that one or not, but I'll put it
Henk
up
might
here.
not have seen
I
that.
believe so, but I would love to see it again, actually, because that would be the first thing I would try, I think. Rofi.
Now this
Oh,
is
I-
4. This is 4 frames here, so that's
Mhm.
it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, I'm just blown away by the resolution that you get there. So I'd love to try.
Where
it.
are
Yeah, that's really something.
Not seeing it. Why am I not seeing it? Maybe I didn't do the right thing. Hold on a second here. Let me see what I can do here. Let's see. Go over here and load you up. There you are. Okay, now you weren't loaded up. That was the problem. Okay, now you're loaded up. Now let's share you.
he's talking to his computer like it's a human. I get it.
There.
Yeah.
Now this is 4 panels here, but this one I had to go through and get rid of some of the artifacting. Now the thing that I did on this on the 3 panel that I just showed you, I was very, very careful about how I did this, in that I had 36 frames for each of those panels. Exactly. I mean, this one here, it was like I was seat of the pants, and it was hard lucky with getting there, you know, because it took me hours and hours to get to this point right here. But the stars on this one came out really good. I mean, it's just freaking pens. But you have what is known as pinching. So there's some pinching right there. There's some pinching here. That phenomenon happens because of where the two images overlap and the problems that you associate with that.
Okay.
I had pinching on that 3 panel, and what it turned out to be was order. When I did the merge, when I was showing you that gradient merge mosaic, I just played around with that order. I said, well, the last panel I want in that order to be overlaid is the best panel, and it's the center panel. So my point being, a 3 panel where you're doing them in line like that is a lot easier than a 4 panel where you're going 1, 2, 3, 4. Because in that situation, in the 3 panel, you've only got 2 panels overlapping.
Right.
This here, you got that panel overlapping that panel, overlapping this panel, overlapping that panel. It's a bitch.
So Dick, did you say that you had 0 pinching with the 3 panels?
The 3-panel had 0 pinching. Not the first time I did it. When the first time I did it, when I loaded them into that gradient merge mosaic, I put them, I think I might have put the best panel first. And then I started to think about how that thing actually works, you know, because there's nothing that really tells you, well, you know, you want to put them in with your best guy at the last. So the very first thing I did is I run this thing, that DNA script. It's called a DNA linear fit script against the panels. And I took the reference panel to be the middle panel. And what it does is it takes the overlap of the target to the target panel, and it says, make it like where it's overlapped. Make the background like that. So when
I'll be right back. I got to get some water. I'll be right back.
When it merges everything, it blends in well. So I did that first before I did anything. And but then when I ran that gradient merge mosaic, I put them in there. The order that I put them in there wasn't right. And then I started thinking about that overlay. And once I did that and put it in there in that order, where the worst panel is the first, and then the second is the second worst, and then the third is the reference panel, it worked. No pinching, not one single place. So the moral of the story to me is make it simple on yourself and do a 3-panel first that's all on the same axis. See? So that way you're only working with 2 panels overlapping, not all these other guys in there. Then you got a lot more complicated issue.
Well, Dick,
And it's doing all kinds of crap, you know, Fourier transforms. Huh?
Dick, I'm wondering how well that Microsoft image compositing editor would work on doing that. It'd be really interesting to compare.
The only thing that bothered me about that is the comment that HenkA made about it. Well, if it doesn't find what it needs, it fills it in, you know. And I really want it to be right, you know. And so that's why, you know, I kind of stick to a scientific package if I can. I don't know. It's just, but you're right. It'd be worth a try, though. Maybe,
Yeah,
you know?
I've only used it a few times, and in fact, I just brought it up because it's been so long. I thought I'd let me play with it. It's now compositing an image of like, I think I've got 12 TIFFs that I took at the Alabama hills and composed into an image. Yeah, one of the tricky parts is if you do that kind of stuff, you also have to make sure that all the images are processed exactly the same way, right? At least the way I do it, I take it through DSS first because you have to stretch it a little bit, and I use exactly the same parameters for all of them. And that is bright enough for us to stitch them. So yeah,
This one you don't stretch at all, but you do have to. What I did is I did background neutralization on all the panels, and I ran photometric color cal. You know, that's the one where it goes out to the server and compares all the stars, and it gives you a white balance based on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that I did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, ICE is not kind of nice in that you just give it the images and it figures it out. It stitches it everything. So I'd be surprised. I would be curious to see how it would stitch.
It would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one right there.
Yeah, because there's a lot of detail in there. But yeah, it will make sure that everything is curved and so on, that it matches. At least I think. You
know what would be a real challenge? Do it with a 24mm. Because you think about it, look how much field rotation you're going to get. You're going to get, I mean, between just doing 3 panels, you're going to get so much field rotation, it's going to be a bitch. And the other thing, too, you're going to have to do is you're going to have to do more overlap. Because think about it. See, those panels are coming together like this. So you're going to have divergence at the top and convergence at the bottom. So even if you plan to do 30%, it ain't going to quite work out like that. See?
Right. Yeah.
And then the other thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to get more edge effects. So you're going to have to trim more. So you got to have more overlap. There's no other way.
And I did a little bit of stitching in Photoshop long ago when I was going to do something on a star hopping bit. And when I took images from the star atlas the Sky Telescope had, and taking 2 or 3 pages, and then I merge them together. And in order to get everything lined up, I had to make one of the layers transparent while the other one was being brought over it. Do you do that with your images as well? Or can you do that?
In PixInsight?
Well, yeah, if you're taking, if you're putting your panels together, and then let's say you start with your middle best panel is the middle, you're starting with the best one in the middle, and you're going to overlay another one that's going to, there's going to be some, there's going to be areas that are the same. And right. So in order to really merge it properly, you know, I made one layer transparent. You can bring it all the way up or somewhat down. So you can just take a couple of stars and lay them right over each other, rotate it a little bit, and when they all start matching up, and then you can go ahead and merge it. That's
not the way it does it. It does a star pair. It does star pair matches. So it actually is going through in the overlapping areas and figuring out star pair matches, and then from that, it's figuring out the best way to line up those two panels. So it does it for you. It does it for you, yes, but it's not quite as simple as you think. Because what if it can't find enough star pair matches, which is on that one, the row OVU guy one that I just showed you? Right. It couldn't find enough star pair matches on the one frame that contains the least amount of nebula, that has the dark nebula B44 on it. That particular guy right there, you know, it took me an hour and a half to come up with the right combination. And I thought, well, what if I just put one star in there? Because you can select how many stars. You can say, okay, one star. What it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, go for this star right here. Well, it doesn't have that star. It's maybe off the field of view or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like. So what I ended up having to do was look at this thing and go through it iteratively and put enough iterations in there so that I could see that it was getting these star counts, star pair matches. And I saw one that said over 24,000 stars. And so I thought, okay, so I'll put 50,000 in there, and it worked. It took me an hour and a half to get that to work out right. So it's not that easy, and it's not something that you can intuitively, what is this thing doing that it needs these star pair matches? And the only thing I could think of is saying, I want to match this star to that star. It's not just going through, well, if it can't match that one, let's try another one. It's not doing that. Well, if the parameter is the same, it's probably following vectors. What is this that's on the screen right now?
Yeah,
this is ice, I think.
This is ice. Yeah, so I brought up ice. So what I did is I had some.
Henk, let me delay it just a second there. So you see Tim at the top. It says untitled. It says image composite editor. I thought it was compositing, but I guess it's just image composite editor. And this program is made by Microsoft, and it's a free program you can download to a computer, and it'll do all these. It's great for doing normal landscapes, but Henk is trying to do it on his astrophotography here. In which direction are you looking, Henk? And this is, you said this is Alabama Hills, you said?
Yeah, so these are the images that I used. So I've labeled them 1 through 12. So let's start with 1. So I took, this was just with a regular camera that I put on a tripod. And these are, I believe, 20-second images taken with my Fuji, I think. And I went up to the top, so the 2 should be higher up, I think. If it's, it went from left to right. Okay, fine. So this is where we camped. And then further up, so now I'm going higher up, I believe. And the idea is so I'm going all the way to the zenith and then back down again and so on. It's all pretty primitive. There's nothing fancy with this. Just 20-second images and up and down to the top. So, and then you load them in ice. So when you bring up the user interface, I think Tom just showed that. It shows up with it comes up with a window, and I'm not sure if I can go back without punishing myself. So you just click stitch, and then it brings up this. So you give it those 12 images, and it figures out how it works, and then you can choose from all kinds of projections. So I've got the stereographic here, perspective, and then you can move it up and down.
Oh, yeah.
You can zoom in and out. But I was kind of surprised with how easy this actually works. So fisheye. Anyway, you see
That's
the
what
whole
you need.
Milky
Yeah.
Way there. So
I
this
think
is a
I
very
normally use cylindrical, it seems like, for most of my stuff when I'm doing
Okay.
landscapes.
Cylindrical, huh? Where is that? Let me see
The
here.
top.
Top, very top, very top.
Oh, this one here. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, that would work.
Hmm.
And then you can, you have some something to play with. You can move it left and right. And I'm not sure if this was one where some part was missing, but it's a very simple way of throwing all kinds of stuff together, and it came out really well. I mean, I love this this kind of stuff.
Pretty.
I think I ended up with Mercator or something like that, and then you come up with something, and I don't know what the next step is, but yeah, I think I have to still crop it somehow or something like that. But anyway, yeah, this is the fancy stuff. So you make your choice, and I don't know what else. But this is
Transverse cylindrical.
yeah. So cylindrical is nice.
What is Mercator? That'd be like a map, right?
Yeah, that's the mapping.
Okay.
It's not all that different. So yeah.
And what about orthographic? What is that?
Which one? Graphic, orthographic. Okay. Well, it's not.
Well, that might be good for a planetarium dome, huh?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good for cropping because if you want a whole Milky Way on there, it's kind of bad because it's rounded at the edges. Anyway, yeah. So this one is kind of okay.
Neat.
Yeah.
Pretty.
Yeah.
So
and-
Henk, is that 2 rows of 6? Is there like 6 images on the bottom and 6 on top, or?
I think I had at least 3 bands going from horizontal to vertical. So I forgot. I mean, this is like 5-6 years ago. Okay. I don't do this stuff very often. So, but yeah, it's that's for sure. You can throw 10-20 images at it, and eyes will figure it out. Strange enough. So yeah, you have to do some initial stretching and be consistent with your stretching, and then give it to eyes. And yeah, and of course, yeah, if you have raw images, you will have to correct for vignetting and so on. This, I think, I use JPEG for this, so the camera already corrects for vignetting. So that's the easiest. And JPEG has enough detail.
It looks like there's a lot of light down just over the mountains there. Is that light from Los Angeles, do you think?
So that would be, I think, yeah, it's because we're facing, this is in the Alabama hills, and we are facing, I think, north. So off to the right would be Lone Pine, I think.
Oh.
Is it? That doesn't make sense, right? No. I think we're facing Lone Pine actually, because the Milky Way, let me see.
I would think you'd be facing west.
Yeah. That part to the right is the southern Milky Way, right? So that's yeah, that would be in the south. So I think we're facing Lone Pine eastward. Yeah, here. Yeah. So it's not Lone Pine. It's some city down there all the way to the right. What would that be? It could be Las Vegas.
There's like Big Pine or something, or
Big Pine is way up to the left. That's way up north. It's 2 hours north. But it is possible that it could be well, Ridgecrest maybe.
Oh, well.
Ridgecrest is near there, and possibly Las Vegas, but I'm not quite sure. But usually it's pretty dark over there. So anyway, the next stop is if it says, oh, can I move this? Oh, I can move this. Okay, sorry, I'm talking about the sharing screen. I couldn't see it. Okay, and the next step is crop. So I'll let you. Oh shoot, projecting panorama. It takes work. So yeah, once in a while it has to do some work. So you have to, I guess you have to be careful before you click this. At least it's working hard on it. Anyway, yeah. Never mind. It's gonna figure it out, and then you stitch it, and then you crop it, and you save it.
Now, is this on a Unix-based machine that you're doing this, or is this
no, this
Windows?
is on Windows box.
Windows.
Yeah. but for for nightscapes, it works beautifully.
Yeah, for a free program, that's unbelievable.
Shoot, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there it is. So now I can crop it, I guess.
You can say autocomplete and it'll do the cropping for you.
Oh, autocomplete.
Oh, no,
okay.
no. Well, auto crop, I guess it'd be
Okay, auto crop.
that
Fine.
chooses the area.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a pretty good crop, too.
And then export.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if I like this image. It's a bit too much stretch at the top. I think I would go back and pick a different projection. So I'm not going to save it. But anyway, it starts here with import. So these are the tips that I just loaded. Yeah, you should click on add images and you just loaded stuff. And then you say stitch and then you get to the screen that we saw. That's all it is. So it's super easy to use. Anyway, just a thought. If you have a tripod, you can do this.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll
Thanks,
stop
Hank.
sharing.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And this program it's a Microsoft.
Yes.
Image
what's the name of
composite
it?
editor.
Image. Oh, the ICE. Okay.
Nice, yeah. And so, by the way, if we're done with this, I think I have a question. Has anybody ever gone to Stellafane?
Yeah.
No, I had a buddy that the 10-inch scope that I made with a buddy, and he went there.
Okay.
And
Because
he entered his 10-inch, which is just like mine, into their amateur contest.
yeah.
So it was, I would love contacting Jeremy again and asking him how that was, but he had a ball.
Because I'm thinking about going there because I was going to visit my son, and he's at MIT, and I thought, well, the timing works out in such a way that Stellafane is coming up. I guess they weren't originally planning on doing it this year because of COVID, but
Right.
all of a sudden they've organized this and they've got plans. So it's from August 5 to 8, and you can camp there on that area. So I was just curious if anybody had gone there and what it's like and so on. But I think I would like to go there. If I'm going east, I might as well. I mean, I would love to go to Stellafane sometime.
Well, my buddy had a really good time there. He thought it was great. His scope came in third in the competition.
Yeah.
Second or third, I'm not sure which.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, all right. Well, I think I'll just go and let you know what it's like. But I might be going. I might be gone for 4 weeks because I'm driving there, so I want to make it a cross country trip and do some sightseeing along the way. So that'll be like 3 or 4 weeks.
Long ways to go.
I know, but yeah, I don't mind driving. I think I'll take.
What's the elevation up there anyway? Is it about 5,000 feet?
I doubt it. It's on the East Coast. I bet this.
That would be huge if it was that.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I might go there and maybe do some hiking in the Adirondacks with my son. So yeah, we'll figure something out.
Oh, neat.
Sounds like good fun. Good fun. So Tim, should we show what you did on your mirror?
Yeah, you can do that. It's just I'm still having trouble with that tester. I do have a comment on those LEDs. Remember, I was going to add some resistors, and we talked about adding resistors to the LED. It turns out that the LEDs, and Tom Whittemore was the one that actually caught this once at one of the old workshops. Whatever your forward voltage is, it kind of makes a difference for how dim you can get these things. This is like 3.2 megaamps, something like that, 3.2 volts. Can't remember what it is, but they can only. It doesn't matter how many resistors you put in there. An LED will only go so dim; it won't go any dimmer. And there's like a minimum, and it gets down there. You just can't cut it. In other words, you can't dim it out to get to the point where it just literally blacks out. It just doesn't happen. That's what I seem to remember Tom Whittemore saying that. And that's why we had so much trouble getting it dimmed out. So what I did with this thing, I added like a 300 ohm resistor to it, and just soldered that in line. And then I did like you were talking about, Tom, soldering in series. So I looked that up, and all you're doing is you're kind of like daisy chaining the resistors, and that's all series is. You just solder one resistor, and then the head of one to the tail of the other, and then the head of the other one in line, and that's your series. And you can only dim it. It didn't matter what I put in there; it just dimmed it out. It just dimmed it so far and wouldn't go any lower. So
I think that second circuit that I showed you, which had the potentiometer was in parallel with the LED, that had some way of dividing the current so that you had that it could do dimming somehow. I'm trying to look for that circuit here. The one I sent you.
It's possible. The one thing I was going to do is go out to the airport out there to that shop they have out there. And I know that the potentiometer I have was a 10K potentiometer, and somebody in something I was reading, they were talking about using 100K. So the next thing I want to do is go out there and get a 100K potentiometer and just switch it out and see if that makes any difference. But what I did in the meantime is I decided that I told you guys that I think I sent you a slide where Bruce sent some laser printed transparencies that just had slits of different thickness. So it got wider and narrower slits that he printed out with his laser printer. And he said that those should work pretty good because it's real clean printing. I didn't use that. I didn't exactly know how I was going to attach it to the front of the LED. So in the meantime, I decided to start playing with electrical tape. We talked about that.
Mhm.
The matter of fact, I decided I was going to try putting a pinhole, because Jerry talked about doing a pinhole. So I tried that. Well, as soon as I put these printouts that Bruce gave me, and here's the tester. What I ended up with, you can see I changed out the smaller resistor to the larger one, and what I ended up doing is I kept on playing with the electrical tape and I just have you guys can say it's an X-Acto blade. What I have at work was called a Bard Parker. They're literally surgery blades. So it's just a razor blade that's really, really fine. And I slipped the electrical tape, and no matter what I did, it just didn't come out very clean. So instead of that, I decided, all of a sudden I had a moment of brilliance, and I said, well, why don't I just slip the electrical tape and flip them so that the outside edges, which are clean, and go ahead and tape those together so you can pinch them together or move them apart. And I found today that when I was playing with those, I found that it's still not clean enough. It's just not clean enough. And I don't know what I'm going to do to that. And there's also inside the LEDs, there's these little filaments. And I think what I can try to do is sand that out so it's even fainter. But all those things help. Today I was playing with it. You can see that picture that I took, that image I took. I had a really hard time getting these images. I had to get really lucky to get a feedback from the knife edge. This is a knife edge where you can see where the if I had a pin stick on this would be over about the 80 zone. It would be like the second pin in. And so there's that light, that donut of light that you want to go for. And you're literally taking a stick that has a bunch of toothpicks on it. And you calculate exactly what the distances are from the center to each one of these toothpicks. And that data gets fed into, that's your hard data that you're going to collect. So every time one of these light shadows or donuts lands at where one of the pin sticks are, one of the toothpicks are, you take the measurement on the gauge. So you're just going to take your digital gauge and take the numbers. and then write them down. And you're going to move. You're either going to move from outside to in or inside to out. The best is do both. So you're going to move from the 100 zone, which is the outer edge, all the way in as far as you can, and it's going to be about 40 zone. And 0 is center, 100 is the edge, and you're going to go from outside in, taking measurements over these pin sticks as you go, and then you take that and you know, Bruce and Mike Chibnik and Jerry, all these guys, they can do the math and write the programs in what is Excel, but I use a program that was done by a guy named what was it called? Can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking on it. But he wrote a program which is Foucault test. I think the last one he did was 2A, and he's just disappeared off the planet. I have no idea where he is. I even wrote the guy who I think he lives in Germany, and I said, your help menu, it doesn't work, and he goes, yeah, I never wrote it. So if you wanted any help, it wasn't there. Rifke, his name was Rifke, Reifke, and Foucault test 2A. But anyway, I went ahead and I got one that was it wasn't even a beta. It was his finished alpha version, and I downloaded the installer, and I talked to a guy back at Stellafane, and I said, "Do you know what happened to that guy Rifke?" And he goes, "No," and we lost all his program. That tester he had was really good, and I said, "Well, I got it," and I sent it to him. So if you go to Stellafane, he's got that installer, and I love it. Most of the guys in our workshop don't like it because it doesn't have, they don't know what the algorithms are that were used in it so they don't trust it. But I mean, I made my 10-inch with it. It seemed to work fine. What I love about it, and I'll send Tom an image of this sometime, that the information it spits out has all these different Strel ratios and peak to valley, and the way your mirror is good to this wave of air, and it's if you're an 8th wave, 10th wave, it'll tell you all that stuff. But it sends out it'll send you out a graph that reads from the center to the edge of the mirror, and you'll see your wavefront. And how it reads is you'll see a graph where there's a red line above a baseline. The baseline is a perfect parabola. So the bottom of the graph, like if that's your x-axis, and then the y-axis going up, if your x-axis is the perfect parabola, that's what you want. It never works that way. As you go a little bit, 2 or 3 lines up, you'll see a red line, and that's a quarter wave. So you want to be below that line to get that quarter wave of accuracy. So anyway, using that information that I was telling you about with the tester, you're writing all this stuff down. That's the data you're using. So the problem I'm having right now is making this tester with a little slit in it able to read that light donut. And sometimes it's hard enough to do when it's working perfectly. It's hard enough to do. You can read around the 70 zone really well. You can really see that light donut, which is why that picture that I sent Tom looked so good, because it's easy to read that one. But reading the outer edge, and especially in at the 40 zone, you just can't see it. You can't see that donut of light. And that's why Mike Chibnik wanted to just stop using it altogether. Oh, there's a tester down there. See the tester down below out of wood? That's the one that's on the Stellafane website, and that's what I based mine on right there. So you can see the I'm wanting to say chronometer. It's not a chronometer. What is that? The dial gauge there? You mount a dial gauge there, and that touches the platform.
Yeah.
What is it?
Micrometer.
Micrometer. It's that. Thank you. For some reason, I'm blanking on all that stuff. Well, the little pillar to the right has a lead screw in it, and that's going to push the platform forward or back. And that's what's going to make, that's what's going to give your you know, you're looking at the light bouncing off the mirror to your right, and it's coming back that screen right there in the center, in the middle. And that has either a razor blade or a Ronchi grating in it. And you're going to see the images there. And so as you're taking that lead screw on the right and you're moving the platform forward, your micrometer on the left is also taking the measurements. So again, you're reading that information as that light donut gets over the pin sticks, and you're taking that information. And what you're really measuring is you're measuring the distances of between each zone. And it's a really simple, it's a really simple equation that they're using. And I just use it as just r squared over 2r, which is at the large the r squared, which is large R, is going to be your radius of curvature. And then, oh, wait a minute, it's r squared, the radius of your mirror, r squared radius of your mirror is on the top, and then over 2r, and 2 large R, and large R is the radius of curvature. And so the radius of curvature is literally, it's twice the focal length of your mirror that you have. If you have a mirror that has a focal length of 40 inches, okay, radius of curvature is 80. So if you have an 8-inch mirror, your r squared is going to be 4, the radius, squared 16 over 2r, where if r is 80, so 2 times 80 would be 160. So it'd be 16 over 160. And that number there tells you what the depth of your mirror is at 0. That's what it does. That's what it shows you, because it's the radius, and that's at your 0. So as you change the radius, you're changing those infinite amount of concentric circles as you're going from the center of the mirror out to the edge. And those are the things you're measuring the distances in. And this, whatever you're using, whether you're using Excel or you're using this program I use, it's going to take all those measurements and it's going to give you those differences, and it's going to graph those points and then blend them together. So with this Rifke program, you get the right side or left side of the mirror, and it gives you a wavefront look like it's on a graph. It's just blown up a lot. And what you do is you just mirror it. And when you mirror it, you flip it, and you get the right and left side together. So you get a full look at what your wavelength, what your mirror looks like at the wavefront. And it'll tell you where your high spots are, where your low spots are, and then you go to work and you correct those areas. And very slowly you work your telescope back to where you're better than best to go for 8th wave. And there's a reason for that. Everybody says you can, if you get above quarter wave, then you've reached, for our atmosphere, that's as good as it gets. And according to Tom Whittemore, that's not true, because you're getting a reflection. So the reflection, it's doubling everything or halving everything. So you want to get to an 8th wave to have a good 4/4 wave mirror. Anyway, those are the things I'm struggling to get this thing to read correctly so that I can see this light donut. And it's getting close now, so that I can get back to work on it. And what I can see easily is what you're seeing below here that Tom's showing you, all these Ronchi gratings that you're seeing there. Those Ronchi diagrams, those are easy to read, and you can get pictures of these things that are just for your mirror, what it looks like for your focal length, and for if it's an f4, f5 mirror, and you can put these lines in, and you get the feedback you're getting from these Ronchis are showing you these patterns. Then when you get close to what they're supposed to look like, that's when you go to the knife edge, which is what I've been talking about endlessly here. Sorry to bore you guys. I wish I had some things to actually show you so you could see what they look like, because it's pretty fascinating. But getting this light slit to work properly has just really been a real drag for me. That's about it, Tom. Sorry to bore you guys with it, but it's pretty important to get that tester working so that you can read that light donut.
I really think, Tim, sometimes that if, you know, like Mike Chibnik had his web camera that put, instead of using his eyeball, he's using that web camera. That certainly was a smart way to go. So that was kind of neat to get a nice little camera that is doing seeing the pictures for you, so you can see it accurately. It's so hard to get your eye in the right spot.
It is, and the thing that was good about Mike's is he used what did he use? It was just a dollar thing he got at a yard sale. I think it was just a holder for an iPhone, and he mounted it on the tester so that it would sit right behind the viewing window. And once he got it set up, you could just take multiple pictures of Ronchi grading. It didn't work so well when you got to the knife edge. Knife edge is tough. You really gotta. For me to get that picture today, it really took a lot for me to move that camera around just right to get that return just right. But he did it in a way with that webcam that he could get that stuff really easy. And when Mike did in the workshop, he had this stuff running on his laptop live using a webcam. So he didn't have anything to do. He just set it up and he just started looking at it. We all viewed it on the laptop. But this right here, it's showing me, okay, I can see there's a rim of light off to the left there. I think that's just a ghost. It's not supposed to show that unless you're really at focus, you know, where it's all grayed out. So what you do is you get to your focus point, or you get to R, which is where your radius of curvature is. And so you're not inside focus, outside focus, you're right at focus. And what it does is it grays everything out. They just say that's null, it's nulling. And so when you reach that null point, you're going to have, depending on if you're introducing the knife edge from the left or from the right, I introduce it from the left, and it's easy to get a rim of light off to the right here, like you see here. But it's really hard to have a really good mirror that has no turned edge whatsoever. So that rim of light becomes a halo all the way around the mirror. And if you see that, you really got a good mirror that has no turned edge. And the images you see here in this picture shows me that I have a pretty good mirror. It's pretty smooth. It's got a well-defined little donut of light. The shadow in the middle, there's not a peak of light showing. It's dark to the right, light to the left. You know, it doesn't have what they call a dog biscuit. So there's little chunks of gray and light that are going to be reflecting back. It's pretty smooth. So it's close. It just needs me to read that data so that I can actually give you guys some real data and show you where I'm at with the mirror. It's close to being done. I will say one more thing about this scope. I built the telescope. It's just waiting for the mirror. One thing I don't like about it is that the way I built it, I have the bearings are kind of like just two wheels to each side that are resting on a platform. And Tom somewhere has a picture of that, but instead of doing that, I'll just tell you that when I grab onto the sonotube and I spin it in the RA in right ascension, when I spin the telescope, it wants to rock those bearings right out of the mount. And so I don't like that about it. So what I think I'm going to do is build a nice little lever that's going to attach to the mount itself. So rather than slewing it by grabbing the tube and moving that around and risking throwing everything on the ground, you just grab this little stick and pull it around. There it is right there. So that this bearing assembly here, it's kind of clever. Tom Whittemore actually came up with this idea. You just have all these little struts that go between two wheels, and I put the Teflon on the base, and then the Formica around the bearings. And as you tighten those knobs to the left or to the right here, it's going to pinch the tube to keep it from moving. But turns out if there's a lot of weight in it, it wants to slip anyway. The sonotubes just aren't stiff enough. to keep it from not moving. So the little white gizmo there, it's just something I got from McMaster Carr. It's just a rubber wedge, and I just shove it into the between the tube and the little truss. For the time being, that's what I'm going to use. Eventually, I may completely rework the bearing assembly so that it attaches to a travel in each side of the tube. So I'm going to have like a dovetail slot that goes and mount that to the tube itself, and then that's going to actually slide in on the sides of the bearing, and that's going to be a lot more able to balance, a lot more able to lock in. So it's a learning curve. Anyway, guys, 9:01, time to quit.
All right. Well, good, Tim. Thank you. That's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to bore you guys with this, but it's something it's over 2 years now that I've been screwing around with this mirror and screwing it up. I went through a lot of trials and tribulations. One of the culprits that we had was cerium oxide, which is a polishing agent, and we used one from Wilman Bell that was a pure white cerium oxide. It was just horrible, and it kept scratching my mirror. So in 2 years, maybe I went back 6 or 7 times. And whose is this?
Well, I did this. I was on top of my roof of the garage, and I took this little video looking between zooming in on the moon and Venus and Mars.
Oh, wow.
And you can see Venus here.
Oh, yeah.
And then Mars is very faint here. It's pretty early.
Oh,
in the
yeah, I
evening.
see it. Yeah, you can see it following.
Where?
It's right where my arrow's at.
Really?
A little dot there. I should make this full screen, shouldn't I? Let's see. It kind of comes and goes a little bit. Let's see, Mars. Going too fast, going across there. Oop, went off the side there. Somewhere. So they're a little bit more, probably like a degree apart, where the moon is half a degree, and then Venus and Mars, there's a little bit more than half a degree apart there, and that was on Sunday night.
Huh, nice. Well, anyway, guys, that's where I'm at with this scope. I'm going to keep on horsing around with it. Now I'm going to really get after it, because I now know that I can get some data.
Okay,
I
Tim.
really wish our workshop was going, because that was a dark room, and what I've got here is just
Can't make
bright
it
light.
same. Yeah, Tom Whittemore wants to help you on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be calling Tom soon, because I'm going to have him help me read this thing. It's nice to have a couple of eyes, 2 or 3 people actually looking at this thing. You remember, Tom, how that was looking at it.
Right.
It drives you
All right.
crazy.
All right, I'm going to call it quits here. We'll
Me
try
too.
this again next Tuesday. Hopefully we'll have some more folks show up next Tuesday.
Yeah,
Gary,
thanks for sharing, you guys. Good
You
stuff.
bet. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Later, Hank.
Bye, Hank.
Good night.
Bye.
In meeting for all.